Computer. Venus in Aries for the third and final time of 2025. Hello, my name is Eliane-Nicole. I'm your astrologer and tarot reader. In this video, I have Joanna Pitt joining me, my friend of many years and also an astrologer. And we today will talk together about this transit of Venus into Aries, all of the major aspects that she's making through this last jaunt through Aries, which begins April 30th and takes us to June 6th. And so, Joanna, I want to introduce you. And if you want to say a few words about yourself, your practice before we get started.
Thank you, Eliane. I'm very happy to be here with you. As you said, we are longtime friends, and I think there's a beautiful aspect actually that we're going to talk about happening this weekend with Venus and Neptune. And you and I are having a reunion, our high school reunion we went to an all-girls school, so with the women, which just feels like a perfect representation of this time as Venus moves into Aries, making this aspect to Neptune of harmony and love and beauty and sisterhood and kinship and friendship and coming together in its most exalted state. So I love watching the planets move through the sky. I am an evolutionary astrologer. And I'm really interested in our development over long periods of time. I'm also a Venus ruled person, Taurus rising and Libra sun. So I've got a lot of important Venus aspects in my chart. So these transits are particularly interesting to me. And I'm just really happy to be here and talk with you about all of this.
Yes, we're both very Venusian people. It's we have known each other since we were 11 or 12 years old. We went to school for 6 years, 7th through 12th grade, and our birthdays also happen to be just 5 days apart. So we have some very similar astrology, not all together. We have different risings and
Different
moons.
moon. Mhm.
But I have Venus square Neptune in my chart. So I have do you have that too?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Our birthdays actually, I think, are only 3 days apart. So
Okay,
it's
you're the
pretty
fifth.
close. Yeah.
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 Okay. So yeah, because I have Venus at 4 and Neptune at 3. And you have Venus at
Zero.
and
Zero.
Neptune at 3 as well.
Mhm.
Okay, so we both have Venus Neptune in our chart. So we are Venus experts. So you're in the right place if you want to know about Venus and Aries. And so, yeah, this Venus and Aries is the third and final time. Do you want to talk about the date that she originally entered and give some of those stats before we get?
Sure. Absolutely. So we just experienced a Venus retrograde, which began from the shadow perspective in January 28th of this year. And then on March 1st or 2nd, depending on your time zone, Venus turned retrograde at 10 degrees and 50 minutes of Aries. So Venus is going to make its final touch to that station point. And then Venus went direct on April 12th in the evening in the US and will finally leave its shadow on May 15th. So this is a very important month for that point. And Venus at that retrograde point was right next to the eclipse degree of 9 degrees Aries. So it's very, very potent. And Venus was very involved in the eclipse story of spring of 2025, which was we've all managed to live through it, hopefully, and survived and came out the other side. I'm very curious. I talked to in almost conversations with everyone of, how have your relationships been? What has shifted? Where have you been more direct in your desires and following, the path of what you want and moving towards your goals that are aligned with your values, and then also things around culture and beauty? Have you been going to the symphony? Have you been listening to music? Have you been dancing? Have you been making art? Have you been just, participating in culture and the experiences of beauty that may surround you in small ways or big ways? So this retrograde was a really powerful time because it crossed Pisces and Aries, and now we're entering the final leg.
Yeah, and that Pisces Aries story also, Mercury had a retrograde in basically the same degrees. So that patch of sky was is really important from a cosmic perspective. It's been pulling a lot of focus for us, like you said, on all of those kinds of topics like relationships and art and beauty and all of these Venusian type of topics. Style. I put blonde in my hair during Venus retrograde, which I didn't even think about it. Like I was like, oh my God, that's so Venus retrograde. But yeah, so now that she's entering, going back into Aries today as we speak, we're recording this on April 30th, the day she changed and what do you know what time it is that she changes? I don't know.
Find out. I'll get the exact time.
The exact time doesn't really matter, but
Oh, it just happened.
10:15 a.m.
Just happened.
Of course, we're recording. Yeah. And so, I mean, for the first 10 degrees, she's going back over ground that we've already been through. And that's what, those questions that you were asking, I feel like now we're in the resolution phase of the story. It's like we had the introduction to this story when she first moved into Aries. We went back over it, kind of reflecting on our values and re-examining our relationships, all of these things that this retrograde season was bringing up. And now it's moving forward. And so it's like it's the resolution of everything that I feel like we've kind of been learning and reflecting on in this whole Venus story.
I think that it's important also to really tune into the energy around self-love, self-esteem, and our value system and where we're putting our time and energy. And there's been so much change in our society, our government, our institutions, which is right on time, right? It's like absolutely was meant to happen and it's
In the
happening
stars.
in the stars. So I'm not saying that it's bad or good. In a true Libran fashion, I'm neutral about that piece, or as neutral as I can be. But the piece that's important is really to watch ourselves and our family and friends and community to really tune into the values that they are operating under. And a lot of people have really been confronted with, what have I been believing? What is authentic to me? What is the right path forward? What is, how do I hold myself in my own highest regard of my own needs, my own desires, and my own wants? And I think as Venus finishes this retrograde in the first decan, right, the first 10 degrees of Aries, those questions are really going to be answered more and more. And I would call everybody to really tune into that for themselves, whether it's to write their own, Venusian manifesto, or, to just, make an altar to Venus, or really tune into the aspects that we want to move forward with from our own um, second chakra, third chakra. Like, let's move our energy forward. I think that's really, and how we look and how we present, and the beauty that we surround ourselves with, I think is really interesting to relate to and to work with in this time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as Venus enters Aries, she's immediately applying to a conjunction with Neptune. And so, I mean, I think that that aspect speaks to what you were saying in terms of like, yeah, we're here in this new world. It's a new era. And this is the very first time in our lifetimes that Venus is conjoining Neptune in Aries. And so this is a really important transit because the outer planets, they move so slow. Neptune takes 165 years to go all the way around the sun. They are the transpersonal planets, so they have a lot to do with collective things and eras and moments of history and you know, the all of the outer planets are changing in 2025. The landscape of our lives, well, Pluto changed at the end of 2024, but the landscape of our lives is completely changing in a world level. And so that of course affects all of us personally as well because we all live in the world. And when a personal planet has a transit to one of those outer planets for the first time, it really gives us a peek into what we're looking at ahead in this whole Neptune and Aries era, which is going to be 14 years. And so this Neptune and Venus conjunction, which happens exactly in Los Angeles. It's May 2nd, 10:06 a.m. It's the first major aspect she's making. She's in an application as soon as she enters on the 30th. So you may be feeling the effects, recognizing the expression of this. But it's interesting because it's going to tell us a lot about, you know, it's a reset on relationships and even spirituality in some cases as well. And the dream, what our dream is for the future, right? Like all of these things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was going to say, if you have a meditation practice, today is the day. Today is the day to go into meditation and really contemplate or just simply be available to expanding your mind into this new way. There's a deeper frequency of love. Venus is love, Neptune is higher love, Neptune is divine love. So just embrace this opportunity. And again, to our reunion, I kind of love this. It's women coming together at a much, so many years have passed. And back when we're kids, there's all this competition and there's we don't know you don't know who you are and you're learning about who you are as a woman as you're going through puberty and all of that kind of thing, and then to come together all these years later in maturity and there's just a much deeper respect and knowing of ourselves and who we are relating to our own self, and then to be able to go to the community and go to the greater society with a higher frequency is really beautiful. And I would just offer everyone to go deep as you possibly can. Be nice to people today and tomorrow and the next several days. Like really, as you said, this is the beginning of a 14-year cycle. Venus every year will come through Aries and will meet Neptune.
Yeah, and so on that day and the days leading up from the 30th and even the few days after, pay attention to what's going on for you around art, beauty, love, romance, style. In some cases, Venus has to do with money, and definitely, spirituality, religion, because we're bringing in Neptune. In terms of the arts, Neptune a lot of times has to do with anything to do with images. So, film, painting, photography, all of these kinds of topics are going to be having kind of a grand reset because Aries is the very beginning, zero Aries is the beginning. They're meeting at one Aries, which is also very much a point of initiation. Aries is an initiating sign, one is an initiating number. Like it's this is a new start in love. This is a new start in art. This is a new dream, I also think of it as the heroine's journey, like the hero's journey, but because it's like, the Venus Neptune in Aries almost has this like, I said it before when she first entered that it's like this kind of Joan of Arc feel to it, right? This like a woman with a cause, with a passion, with something she believes in so deeply that she's willing to die for it. Kind of like, there is some tinge of martyr energy to it, but it's also like woman warrior, like, but like for something she believes in,
Mm,
no,
absolutely.
something bigger than herself, that she's fighting for something bigger than herself that has a spiritual meaning to her.
Hmm. In evolutionary astrology, Neptune represents the third stage of consciousness, which is interdependence, and which is we are all one. There's a yogic sutra that says, recognize that the other person is you.
Mhm.
And there's another yogic sutra which says, understand with compassion, or you will misunderstand the times. And I really believe that those two ideas can take us through this Neptune and Aries. Very, very important. Very important. We are all one. The differences between us have been imposed by outer forces, outer energies, and it's just not real. And if we really can turn into our heart, Venus, with compassion, Neptune, there's a deeper connection available to us on an individual level and on a collective level. And this is the next phase of consciousness, I think, that's coming in. And so this is the perfect kickoff, the perfect start. It's fast, it's just a few days.
It is.
It's interesting to think about it that way, right? So there's another aspect that I wanted to talk about too, which is that when the moon cycles through Aries and the moon's going to connect with Venus, which is later on in the month. Um, and, when that happens again, it's another one of these sort of trigger moments of deep compassion, deep love, deep self-respect. And the more that we honor ourselves and exalt ourselves, then the better people that we are and the better partners we are and the better mothers and daughters and sisters and relatives and workers and all of this kind of thing. So I think that there's a lot of gifts that is available for this moment with Venus in Aries. And it's interesting, it's not long, right? April 30th to June 6th. It's pretty quick transit, just
Yeah,
over
it
a month.
is. It is a pretty quick transit, except the first 10 degrees we've seen before. So that's kind of it's part of a longer story, even though this last part is kind of like, yeah,
Right.
we're on our way. It's like the lessons have kind of been, or we're doing the final integration of, I
Right.
think, the lessons of this cycle. We're squeezing out of it what we will and moving forward. But
Right.
yeah, on Saturday, I was just checking out at our reunion. The moon will be in Leo. It moves into Leo that day. And so the moon will be trining Neptune and Aries, trining Venus and Aries. And then, but then there's a little opposition with Pluto after that. So a little power struggle going on. But, what are you going to
What
do?
would a reunion be without a little power?
So, then the next major aspect is what? The
I think it's really so Venus will be out of or Venus will conjunct the eclipse degree on May 14th. So might harken back to what you experienced during eclipse season.
Well,
Uh,
May 6th, she's going to form a sextile with Pluto. And I know a sextile is kind of like a lighter aspect. It's a harmonizing aspect. It's of the nature of Venus. But I think that it's just something to look at May 6th, because I feel like these transits with Venus and the outer planets and the way that she's connecting to the outer planets in Aries are really giving us a lot of foreshadowing to, like, where things are going for us in terms of, relationships, art, beauty, style, etc., in this new world, because Pluto is, as she forms the sextile with Pluto, he's also stationing, because Pluto stations on the fourth. And so Pluto is still very still in the sky. And when a planet is stationing, that's when their presence is most intensified on the planet. And so I think that this Venus sextile with Pluto intensifying is showing us a lot about um, the relationship between, well, for one thing, technology and relationships, technology and beauty, technology and art. And because it's a sextile, I think it's showing us the positive side of that because there is a good side too. It's not just all dark and ominous, but it's still Pluto. So it's still this aspect of the culture is undergoing a very major transformation that we are just in the very beginning stages of. And so that's why I like looking at these early aspects that Venus is making to these outer planets because it's giving us, we're just in the very opening stages of it, but it's giving us an idea of like where things are going, what the new path is
Mhm.
for us in these
I
areas.
think too, we have to be open-minded and
Yeah,
think beyond what we've known because there are a lot of people that are focused and oriented around these future visions, but for the most part, the most of the public isn't really aware of the possibilities. And it really is asking us to open our hearts and open our minds to desire something that might be beyond what we even can consider and conceive.
absolutely. I didn't realize how much time had passed and we're still like
Yeah.
in beginning. Do we want to talk about I know there was a big transit you wanted to talk about. Is that
Well, we can talk. So on May 22nd, there's a trine with Mars, which again is one of these more positive, opportunistic aspects.
and should we just say May 15th, she's out of shadow. So
Yeah.
that's officially the end of the Venus retrograde underworld journey story. And
If you haven't connected with your exes, now's the time. Between now and May 15th is the final. I have one of those. I'm like, I've been putting it off and I have 2 weeks to make it happen.
oh
So,
yeah, I had one like pop up on me. Yeah, no, it's anyway. Um, so but yeah, so out of shadow May 15th, May 22nd and May 23rd, then we're gonna go into Venus trine Mars, which is in Aries and Leo, muy caliente. It can be very sexy, very passionate. Um, but it can also just be very creative and very like driven, energetic, like going for what you want in love or art or beauty or having that passionate drive to just move forward, having the courage of your convictions and bravery and heart and all of that. I feel like is the Venus Mars trine. But then there's another aspect of things going on too that adds a little spice to the mix, which is, do you want to
oh,
talk?
on June 1st,
Oh,
uh,
that's June 1st. That's not
yeah,
on the.
later.
So but you said there was something on the 23rd.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the Venus gate, which I had mentioned previously. So yeah, right after the Mars Venus trine, um, we have a Venus gate. So the Venus gates are these energetic portals when, as part of Venus's cycle, when she's out of the underworld, when she's being visible. Right now, Venus is a morning star. So she's visible in the morning sky before dawn if you want to go outside in the early hours. I don't know. It's getting very light very early right now. So now it's like 5:30 a.m. Maybe you need to go outside or even earlier. Venus is in the morning sky and the moon will be there. So around this period, it'll be very interesting for the sky watchers to watch not just the evening, but also in the early morning for Venus and Mars to be visible in the sky, as well as the moon. So the moon is going to illuminate Venus in those days, May 21, 22, 23. And this Venus gate is at 17 degrees Aries. So the Venus gate also energetically, we can assign them to the chakra system. So a lot of people believe that this energy is really around our third eye. So this is very much our intuition. And obviously with the moon, we're always talking about our emotional body, our feeling sensation, and the cycles and rhythms of our days. And with Venus, again, this is harmony. This is very deep femininity and receptivity. So be warm, bring in this Ma force, allow yourself to hold more than you might think you're capable of, and allow the ease and flow to go through. It's a really beautiful, dynamic day. These Venus gates are high prosperity. You mentioned Venus can often represent money, and let's tune into that prosperity frequency. And by the way, it's still in this trine to Mars, as you said, which is a talent energy. So use your talents.
Yeah.
Type of artistic sensibility, we all have them, whether it's singing or dancing or watercolors or, you know, finger painting, like it doesn't matter. Dance, right? That's a way to honor this aspect.
And also, for people, I mean, I also always encourage people to be creative, even if you don't think that you're an artistic person. But if you feel like you don't want to, at least take in the arts, at least make space to appreciate the arts, listen to music, take in good film or good, go to a play, like do things where you're, tuning in with that energy.
Yeah.
Um, then what's the last aspect we wanted to talk about? Or is June 1st the next thing?
Yeah, June 1st is the next one, which I think is really interesting and very, very deep, very different than all of that we've been talking about so far. Venus will conjunct Eris and Chiron on June 1st at 25 degrees Aries. And I know you love Eris. There's an
Eris is so
energy.
interesting. So
Yeah,
Eris is the goddess of discord, and Eris is she's the street fighter. She's she is just zero tolerance and take no prisoners when it comes to injustice or inequality or where there is anything where women are being abused or taken advantage of in any way. Eris, the goddess of discord, is like coming to kick some ass.
right.
Um, and next to Chiron and Venus, this is a very interesting combination. It's very, very strong feminine energy. It's very passionate. It definitely feels like initiating energy. I mean, when three planets come together like that, it's almost like a seed planting point in a sense, right?
Mhm.
Um, so and Chiron, I mean, Chiron is so powerful. You cannot deny Chiron. Chiron has to do with the wound, our deepest wound. And so, I mean, for some people, this will could bring up physical injury. For others, maybe more emotional or spiritual injury, maybe relational energy, a wound around the feminine, women, friendship, daughters, sisters, romance in some cases, like yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what I think of off the bat. It could bring attention to where there is major healing needed to take place, and that can be like healing a physical wound or emotional relational, like maybe an apology is in order, or, maybe forgiveness is in order. I don't know, these can all come up around Chiron, and then sometimes Chiron is mentors. So that's the other thing. I mean, Venus, Eris, Chiron can be a fierce feminine powerful mentor energy as well.
I feel like this is the women coming to fight for their personal health. The with
Definitely,
Paris
definitely on the collective bingo. Yeah.
on the collective, I
Yeah.
think there's been so much, going on in certainly this country around, this idea of one of the things that's come up recently with Health and Human Services is this like autism directory. I don't know if you've heard of this, and it's like the mothers are not going to stand for this. I just don't, based on this aspect in and of itself, Venus, Eris, Chiron, I think that there's just going to be a really deep groundswell of, women fighting for their families, for their children, for
For
their
their
own
right.
health. And
Yeah.
for their rights, and I think you're absolutely right in regards to Chiron as the mentor. Chiron in myth was a teacher,
Yeah.
um, and the doctor, the healer. And I think that again, that's part of it. It's we have to become our own healers. We're our best advocates.
Yeah. It has a formation feel to it, like women warriors lining up to advocate for their rights. Like, and for what that's going to look like in the future, right? What that's looking like in this whole era of Neptune and Aries. It's the Aries energy because then Saturn is moving into Aries too. So this is all related, you know.
Right, right. I love that you had used the word initiation and warrior frequency, because I do feel like now that Venus is coming out of its last piece of that shadow, it's gaining speed, it's moving fast. With this Aries push, you're getting that fire frequency of Venus, like supporting her to move quicker and to be demonstrative and to be courageous and to take real deep steps forward. So all of these pieces, right? You've got the Venus gate, you've got the trine with Mars, like you've got that aspect with Pluto, also deep wells of power. So there's a lot of transformation that might take place in the Venusian themes. And then right after that, just a few days later, we've got the sextile to Jupiter. So everything gets bigger.
Yeah, I love the sextile to Jupiter. Things do get bigger, and we have to keep in mind that it's the benefics and a sextile. Sextiles are of the nature of Venus, and so this is a harmonizing aspect, but they're both in their detriment. Venus is technically in her detriment in Aries, which we haven't talked much about. That she's stepping from her exaltation in Pisces back to her detriment in Aries before going home to Taurus, which yay when that comes, but like. So it's the benefics meeting, but neither of them are in the best circumstances, but they're still coming together and helping each other out. And it still feels like a good luck day to me, and
Right, absolutely. I think it's going to be a really fascinating, Venus as the morning star in the morning sky does have warrior energy, and it is a seeker, and it is a frequency of moving forward and exploring and creating new paths. And through Aries, you're just going to get more and more and more of that. And again, it's time for us to really tune into our own value system. Are we living by our values? Are we bringing in art and creativity and feminine energy? And this is for men and women, right? We all have these aspects. What is our relation to money? Are we focused on, again, the things that make sense for us and that are important to us, or are we scattered and tuning into the things that are just our waste of time? And I think my hope is that even though Venus in Aries is in its detriment, that she's going to have enough energy to move through this and make some new interesting things move forward.
Yeah, I feel like at this stage of the journey, she's just more clear on what she wants and how she's moving forward in these areas of her life. And it's like she met with Neptune, she met with Pluto, she met with Mars, and now this meeting with Jupiter is bringing an opportunity to kind of like I don't know, brainstorm or expand the vision of the future, maybe and I don't know. I feel like sextiles with Venus and Jupiter are just they bring an opportunity if you're aware, of it. There's opportunities presented by that aspect. Um, and it's not like a trine, it doesn't land in your lap. You have to kind of be aware of it and interact with it, but it's there. And so that's why I like to call that out in the transits. And that's kind of like the last transit before she moves into Taurus, June 6th, which we'll be back or I'll be back. Someone will be back to discuss when that happens.
Yeah.
But for now, I think that was a good little talk on Venus. And I did a video on Venus into Aries. It's just like all the Venus and Aries characteristics if you want to go and watch that for more context. But here we did something different, which I think is great. And we kind of kept it in the timeline we wanted
I
to.
know we did. There's always, we get excited.
Um,
Two Venusian folks love talking about Venus and what she has to offer. And we're really just everything. The astrology feels very new right now, and with all of these major outer planetary shifts. So it's really helpful to keep talking and go a little bit deeper each time. So thank you so much.
Yes, and I just want to, in closing, say that if you are watching this on YouTube, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel. Please hit the notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. Please like, please comment, please share. There's a link in the description to book a reading with me. Are you still doing readings? Or
I am, yes.
okay, so we can put a link in it. Do you have a YouTube?
No, no, just my website,
And you
joannapitt.com.
have an Instagram too.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll put Joanna's info. She can send it to me, and I'll put that in the description too. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us to talk about Venus. Thank you so much, Joanna. And I'll see you Saturday at the reunion.
Love it.
And all
Thank you.
right, bye. So I'm going to end the recording.